my name is Amani. I'm 23 years old. I'm a fine art photographer and interior designer. And yeah, like Am said, today I'm going to show you how I work and just share the inspiration behind some of my images and tell you the stories behind them, show you how I use my personal story to create my images. And yeah, I'm going to be showing you some befores and afters, and at the end of this talk I'll be demoing an edit. My work only comes together on Photoshop, so I'll show you how I work from start to finish. Okay, so I got into photography when I was around 13 years old. I made a friend who was into photography and she had one of those tiny point and shoot cameras. So I got one, we started playing around, and I used to take all kinds of pictures, mostly of my family, and I would document like our family vacations and family trips and stuff like that. And that friend also introduced me to websites like DeviantArt and Flickr. And through DeviantArt, I discovered a photographer called Lara Jade. And for those who don't know her, Lara is now a famous fashion photographer in New York. But at the time, she used to do a lot of self-portraits, and her work was kind of dark, kind of creepy. But I was drawn to that. I'm not sure why, but I was. These are also some of her images, and what really inspired me was how she would use cheap props and whatever she had lying around to create images like these. And she would kind of transform herself into a character in her images, and I found that very inspiring. Okay, so I'm kind of embarrassed to show you this. So at the time, I was experimenting with lots of different things. I guess I was trying to find a way to express myself. So I wasn't only playing around with photography, I was doing writing like poetry and short stories, and I've always been into music, so I took a bunch of guitar lessons as well, just trying out all kinds of things. And I started playing around with editing. And for these images, these are stock images I downloaded from DeviantArt. I was just teaching myself how to edit. So I was using a software called PaintShop Pro. I have no idea if it still exists, but at the time I was terrified of Photoshop and I had no idea how to use it. And then a couple of years later, I got my first DSLR, and it was a Nikon D80, and so I started taking pictures of my friends. And you can see I was kind of drawn more to darker themes, but I also played around with lots of different kinds of things. I shot images like these, and I'm not sure what category this would fall into, but I'm guessing something closer to fashion photography. Then I started playing around with self-portraits. I never felt like I could show my face in my images, so I was always trying to find ways to do self-portraits without showing my face. So I would play with a lot of long exposure and blur and stuff like that. And I did stuff like this. It's kind of really embarrassing to show you this. This was during the whole angry teenager phase. But I'm showing you these images. I only found these images because I have them up online. At the time I was very proud of these and I thought they were good. And if I'd been too scared to share these images, I don't know if I'd be where I am today. I think one of the most important things when doing photography or any other kind of art is just to believe in yourself and put yourself out there, because it's the only way you're going to grow. I also played around with landscape photography. I shot the image on the left in Greece and the one on the right in Malaysia. So then I graduated from high school, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in university. I was going back and forth between photography and English literature, and I've always loved writing, like I said, and I've always been a reader. I still am a reader. I love reading all kinds of things like poetry and fiction. So I thought I would do English literature, but I didn't know what I would do after I graduated. I didn't know what kind of job I would have. And when it came to photography, I had this whole debate with my parents about how photography is only a hobby and you can't really make it a career. So I still wanted to do something art-related, and I did interior design. In my freshman year, we did a lot of courses in drawing and painting. And again, I was just trying to find like the perfect medium for me to express myself. And I thought that drawing and painting could be it. And as much as I enjoyed it, it just didn't stick. I didn't have the patience for it. And again, I started playing around with creative writing again. I took a bunch of English courses in university and some creative writing courses. And I really thought I would pursue a career in writing. I wanted to write a novel, and I did start one, and I never finished it. But then, by the end, when I got to my senior year at university, it was too hectic for me to do anything besides that. So I didn't do any photography or any writing. And then I graduated from university, and I took a year off because I just wanted some time away from everything. I didn't get a job, but I did get a couple of internships. And it wasn't a very good year for me. But by the end of it, around November, I was on Facebook, and I saw that Clara Jade posted something about a live workshop she was doing, and I had no idea what Creative Live was at the time. And it's basically, if you guys don't know, it's a website where you can watch live workshops for free. And you can also buy the workshop after it's over if you want to rewatch it again. And it has all kinds of workshops like photography, arts and crafts, and business and personal development, stuff like that. So, and I'd never heard of Sue Bryce either. So I decided to look her up, and they both talked about the kind of work they do now. But at the time, I showed you Lara's work, and Sue used to do that kind of stuff. This was one of her images, and it's really dark and also creepy, but I love that. And what I really love about this image is that it looks a lot like a painting and less like a picture. And because I love Photoshop so much, I can see how hard she must have worked on this. And Sue mentioned another photographer called Jennifer Hudson, so I decided to look her up, and I fell in love with this series. I think it's the combination of color and texture and the overall feel of the images. It was still dark, still kind of creepy, but pretty. And I was inspired by that, so I decided to start experimenting. And this was one of the first images I created. I shot this of my brother. And looking at it now, like, there's so much I would do differently now. Just off the top of my head, just the textures in the background, the textures on the skin, I would play around with that. And then I created this image. And this one is still one of my all-time favorites because of how long it took me to create. It took around a week of editing. Because I wasn't sure what I was doing. I was just playing around and seeing what I could come up with. And it's funny how this image came together because it wasn't planned. I was out shooting an old warehouse for a newspaper ad one day, and behind the warehouse there was this alley that had like lots of trash and all those twigs and stuff like that, so I took a bunch of pictures of that. And once I got home, I took a picture of the girl and started playing around with that. I also used to look up tutorials a lot, especially tutorials on DeviantArt, and just start trying to improve my Photoshop skills. At this point, I wasn't trying to create like pretty pictures, I wasn't trying to tell stories, I was just focusing on improving my Photoshop skills. Then I discovered Brooke Shaden. I saw a picture that someone posted by Brooke on Instagram, and I had no idea who she was. So I looked her up and I just fell in love with her work, and then I was on her website, and when you open up Brooke's website, the first thing you see is a workshop schedule. And to my surprise, there was a workshop coming up 2 weeks after I saw that here in Dubai with GPP. So I thought it was a sign and I had to be there. And I signed up for it. And it was the first photography workshop I ever attended, and my first encounter with GPP, and it was amazing, and it completely changed my life. And every time I talk about this, I kind of get really nervous, so I thought I would show you a video I made. I made this video last year. I did a presentation at Lightfest, GPP's Lightfest. If you guys don't know what that is, it's basically an event where locally based photographers just present about their work. So I was there last May, and I made this video. you some of Brooke's images for those who haven't seen her work. These are just some of my favorites. Her work is dark and it can be sometimes disturbing, but what makes Brooke stand out for me is that she uses a lot of storytelling in her images, and each image can, like, you can just take the time to use your imagination, just come up with whatever you want, and you can interpret it however you want. And what's also really weird but really awesome is that she is such a happy person. She changes lives. She's one of the most inspirational and motivational people I've ever met, but you look at her work and you wonder where this comes from. She also posts a lot of speed edit videos if you guys are interested in seeing how she creates her images. Like the one on the right, I know there's a video on her YouTube channel if you want to see how it was created. And the one on the left, she shot in Hawaii last October during a workshop retreat kind of thing, and I got to go to that. It was amazing. I shot this image during the first workshop I attended. I went to 3 of her workshops so far, and the way the workshop worked was that on the first day, Brooke would talk about storytelling and how she creates her images and her inspiration and stuff. And then we went on location. We went to a house that was under construction to shoot there, and Brooke demoed the shoot, and then she let us have time with the models to shoot, and I shot this image. And she said that the next day we would be editing our images, and if we wanted to start working on them, we could. So when I went home, I took pictures of plants just to add it into my picture because I knew I wanted lots of greens in the background. And this is when I realized that this is it for me. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is the medium I've been looking for. So I created this image a few days after the workshop. This image is called Carry On, and I wanted to do this during the workshop, but I didn't get the chance to because my turn with the model was up, so I used my sister, who's right here. To me, this image might be kind of creepy, but it still has a message of hope because to me, this image is all about how even if you feel dead inside, you should keep going and keep fighting, keep trying. And in the image, it's very literal because the girl is dragging her dead body. I also created this a couple of days after the workshop. For images like these, I would just go out and shoot and without having a clear idea of what I want to do. And it was just a nice day, so I just went to shoot. But then the story kind of comes together once I start editing. Yeah, this image has a theme that kept coming up in my images later on, and you see that. And it's the theme of wanting to escape or feeling trapped. This is when I started translating my feelings into my pictures and using photography as a therapy, because I often feel trapped. And I want to travel the world. It's one of my biggest dreams, and I can't really do that just yet. So I tried to turn that into pictures, just kind of like to release that. Again, this is another image I just randomly decided to go shoot without planning ahead. I love the beach, but I don't mean like the beach when it's all sunny and you go chill and have some ice cream and stuff. I love the beach when it's dark and windy and stormy. I love the colors. I love the grays. And like I said, I've always loved music, so I decided to create something based on that. And I wouldn't say this was one of my favorite images, but it was fun to play around with perspective and stuff like that. And this image is called Naive, and I created this when I was doing one of Brooke's inspiration exercises. And what you do is you basically pick an object, any object you want, and just stare at it until you start, words start popping up in your head, and just write that down and create stuff based on it. At the time, I was in the kitchen, obviously, and I was staring at knives, and I wrote down words like hurt, pain, stab, backstab, and then I thought I would try to incorporate a personal story in the image. And this image is the story of a girl who's too naive, too innocent, too pure, to see the pain that's coming at her from all directions, but no matter what, she's still standing strong. And sometimes things just come together after I start editing. I picked this dress for the shoot randomly because it was new and I wanted to use it. But then when I started editing, like it hit me that white could also be a symbol of purity and innocence. So I just felt like that worked really well with the theme. This is too dark. Okay, I created this image. This one's called "We Will Be the Hopeful," and I created it after going through a hard time. And I've always had amazing support from my friends and family when I'm not feeling well. But then I think there are times when you need to realize that strength comes from within, and if you can't help yourself, no one can help you. And so I wanted to create an image to represent that and how you should be your own light in the darkness. And I decided to round out the edges because I wanted it to look like she's in her own little world. And this is how I work most of the time now. I try to plan out everything I want to do before I start shooting, and I even draw really bad sketches. But yeah, I learned that from Brooke, and it really helps to know exactly what you want to do before you do it. And sometimes things change once you start shooting, and that's okay. Like in my initial idea, I wanted the girl to be on the sand, but then when I got there, I really liked the rocks, and I thought maybe I'd have her there instead. And it's fun to play around. Sometimes I do the same thing. I plan a shoot and then change it when I get to the location, and it completely fades. And sometimes it looks even better than what I imagined. But like, it's okay. I would go back and just do it again if it failed. Again, the theme of feeling trapped, I decided instead of making that into a positive image, I would do something dark and really trap myself. This was fun to edit because each rope was shot individually. I just laid it flat against the wall and just took a bunch of pictures and kept adding it in. The most challenging part about this was making it look believable, especially around the arms. I just started playing around with shadows until I felt like it looked right. This image is called Across the Abyss, and again, this is very personal to me because, again, it's about how you can get through a hard time. Even if you're scared, even if you don't know what's coming ahead, even if the road isn't clear, you should always try to have some faith and let that faith guide you through. And again, I thought I would have the girl crawling over the bridge, but then when I got to the location, I started playing around with poses, and I always do this. I have an idea for a pose that I want to do. I do that pose, and then I start playing around with poses because you never know, you could come up with something you like even more. And this is how I edited this picture. This was the main shot, and I just had a ladder and I laid it flat against the sand. I darkened everything in the background. Then I had my camera up on a tripod, so it was easy to take lots of pictures and blend them in without worrying about angles changing or shifting or anything like that. So I just took a bunch of pictures of the ladder. I basically just moved it around. And then I expanded my frame, adding sand. And I had these two images. I knew I wanted mountains in the background, and I wanted the clouds from this picture. So, and these are both images I shot. So I added those in, and I also added like a hazy layer in the background. And then I went back and brought back the clouds that was in the mountains picture because I wanted it to look kind of dreamy, lots of clouds. And then I started playing around with colors, which is my favorite part because it's so much fun. I add lots of vignettes to my images and lots of texture. It's not that clear here, but yeah. This is another image. I work with themes a lot, so I would always challenge myself and try to give myself different themes to work with. And it can be anything, like anything random, from like raindrops to inspired by a poem. And you can see like my tiny sketch over there. And I do these sketches to help me understand where I want everything to be in the picture. It doesn't have to be precise or anything, just to understand composition. And then I have images like these, which are a bit more complicated. I don't know if you've noticed, I don't like to shoot anything that's too modern. I like to have like a timeless feel in my images. And the theme for this image was bridges. And I didn't know where I could go here in the UAE to shoot a bridge that doesn't look too modern. So I'm like, why not build my own bridge? And I did. This is how I did that. I used some depressors. I had a bouquet of dried up flowers, so I used that. And I used string or thread. So you can see how I started working on it again. And the bottom two images, what I did was I printed an image that was shot, two images that were shot by a friend of mine, and I just put that behind the bridge and took a picture. I thought would help it blend into the image of the bridge more than if I were to composite it on Photoshop. Sorry. So I used the image on the left, and this is how I started. Here I just started playing around with colors. And then I added my subject. Then I tried to make the subject blend into the image more. Added some fabric. And then I rescaled my subject and changed the color of the dress. I often do that because I use the same dresses a lot, so I try to change the color so you can't really see that it's the same dress. And then I didn't like the texture. I had the bridge on a piece of paper and it had a messy texture, so I just painted over that with just a normal brush on Photoshop. And then I knew I wanted to extend the ladder in the background, so I took another picture and just blurred it and added that in. And I wanted more clouds. You can see at the top of the image I didn't have anything, so I wanted more clouds. So I used the same picture that I printed and just added it in, masked it out, and then I added more bridge. And here I just painted over everything with a gray soft brush. I just wanted more, I wanted it to have like a foggy, what's the word? Hazy. So I forgot the word. Yeah, that. So I did that. And then I wanted more of that, so what I did was I took pictures of smoke and added that in and just lowered the opacity and blurred it a bit. Then I started playing around with contrast and color. Then I desaturated everything. I do that a lot. I would desaturate and just play around with colors. And then desaturated it again and added more blues to the image. Okay, and for this image, I was inspired by Lindsay Sterling. I don't know if you guys know who she is. If you don't, she's a violin player, and she's amazing. She kind of does like hip-hop violin, so she's always dancing around and playing violin at the same time. So I wanted to create something like that. And this is how I did that. This was my main shot. Then I expanded the frame, but you can see I couldn't get the girl in that pose without having her lose balance, so I shot her legs separately and just added that in. And then I cleaned up my frame, which took an hour. It would have taken me 5 minutes to move all this stuff around, but I was lazy. So there's a lesson for you. Don't be lazy, just move stuff around. Then I cleaned up the frame, and then I added hair and more of the skirt. I made that skirt. I love making my own props, and it doesn't really take that long. So I made it because I couldn't find anything that would give me that movement and texture. Then I cleaned up the frame more, started adding light, and then I desaturated the image. And then I added some purples to the darks to complement the skirt. I was gonna stop here, but then I felt like it just needed one more thing. So I knew I wanted it to have like a ghostly feel. So what I did was I created a new layer and I cloned parts of the skirt and just made that big and just added it to the background. And that's it. If you guys have any questions or anything, comments?
Why are you so awesome?
That is a very valid question.
That was my sister.
No, it wasn't.
Like, how long does it take you? Like, what's the hardest part?
Sometimes it could be coming up with an idea. Because sometimes I'd be like dying to shoot something and I can't think of anything. And that's when I focus on how I'm feeling and try to translate that into a picture. Yeah.
So you said at the beginning you used to just take photos and then the story came up, but now you do the opposite. You
Yeah.
do the story and then take a photo. Which do you think is a better approach?
It depends on who you are. It depends on you. Like if you want to go out and shoot random pictures just because you feel like it, then that's awesome. And I think when I did go out and shoot randomly and came up with something that I liked, I was very proud of it because I'm like, oh wow, you know, I didn't plan this and it turned out so awesome. So I think experiment with both. Okay.
What do you do with fabric? You add fabrics to the image. Do you shoot that separately, or how do you do that?
I shoot it on location. Like for this one, I had the girl. Yeah, this was the main shot. So what I did was she dropped the violin and I just had her flip the skirt or just start twirling, and I just shot that and added it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 questions for you.
Okay.
You mentioned that you always reduce the saturation in your images. Why is that?
I don't like bright colors or like vivid colors. I like the saturated colors more.
Okay. And the second question, you play with the images a lot to see sort of what works, what doesn't.
Yeah.
How do you know when you're done?
I don't. I can go on for hours, but then I think at some point I just get tired and I go like, okay, I can work on this some more if I feel like I need to, but not right now. Like just leave it, because sometimes like I would open up an image the next day and feel like I did way too much work on it, and I would just delete the last couple of layers and be like, okay, I should have stopped there. That looks better.
Do you use stock images, or all of the photos are?
I try not to. I like having everything in my images be mine. But there are some images where I just couldn't find the right cloud picture, so I downloaded stock images from Shutterstock. But then most of the time for my cloud pictures, I use my friend sends me pictures of clouds from the States, so I use those a lot in my images, and he's okay with it, and like he's not gonna sue me later. So. Yeah.
So when you shoot, do you ever change the position of the camera?
No, I have my camera up on a tripod. Once I get my main shot, like I would play around, but then once I know what angle I want to shoot from, I just keep it there and I don't move it until I'm done.
Do you ever use series of images where you use the same image, but then you edit it differently so that you get a series from the same image, but edit it differently so that they look different?
From the same shoot, you mean?
Same, yeah.
No. When I do shoots, I know I'm only going to end up with one picture. If I were to do a series of images, I don't think I would do it on the same day. Like even if it's meant to be a series, I would try to shoot it separately, just so it would have a kind of like a different feel. But I would use something to tie the pictures together, like maybe the same dress or a similar location or something like that.
On average, how many images go into one photo composition?
It depends on the picture. I have one images. It took around 20 images. If you guys remember, it's the one with the birds on the rock with all the birds, because each bird was from a different picture. And I used I think 3 images of clouds for that. And then of course there's also expanding the frame. So there's like the images I shoot left and right, up and down, and just add that in. But then there's images like these where it was 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Anything else?
Am I supposed to go?
I don't know. I'm done.
Yay!
That's all? Amani, do you have anything else to say?
No. Thank you guys for coming. I hope you got something out of this.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation. We all loved your photos and your workflow. Hope you all got some valuable information and ideas.
Check out the website.
Yeah, go and check Amani's website. Maybe
And Instagram and Facebook.
I'm everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, WordPress, Twitter. I'm gonna post this picture on Twitter and be like, they said do something that scares you. I'm terrified of public speaking. So say cheese.